Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so delighted to be here with you again. And I want to express my gratitude for listening to this podcast and sharing with friends and family. I'm very grateful. Today, I'm delighted to introduce Miss Pearletta Lamey, who was introduced to me recently by a mutual friend. And so I want to I invite Pearletta, and actually she was introduced to me as Princess. So do you mind if I call you Princess?
Oh, of course, that's okay.
All right, so welcome, Princess.
Thank you. Thank
I
you.
like
Good
both your
afternoon.
names, you know.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so welcome. You and I have never met, but as I said, you know, you were introduced to me and this person told me Sonia, that you have a wonderful story to share with the world. And so here we are. Um, you are a healthcare professional.
Yes.
And you originally come from Jamaica?
Yes.
Can
Yes,
you
I
tell
am
me,
from Jamaica.
could you tell me what got you here or brought you here?
Oh, sure. So I was born and raised in Jamaica. I came here in 2013.
Okay.
Um, it was a lot of stuff that brought me here. I needed a change in life. I got to that crossroad where I needed to be in a different space to function at my optimal level. I was a midwife there, so coming here, all I know was how to be a healthcare provider. So I transitioned. I came here in 2013 and I built on that. I came and I started back as a CNA and went to LPN school, and now I'm in RN completing my associates in nursing.
Oh, that's wonderful. So as you mentioned, you were a midwife in Jamaica. And to be honest with you, you are so much younger than I thought you would be. I was expecting, someone in our age group kind of thing. And, here you are, you're so much younger. I'm so delighted to talk to a different generation, and tell me the difference between midwifery in Jamaica and here, because I think coming from Ghana to most of our women go to midwives, versus the general hospitals to give birth. Can you share some thoughts on that?
So being a midwife in Jamaica, that meant that there's two pathways to get to midwifery in Jamaica. You could do direct entry midwifery, which when I don't know what it's like now, but when I started there, it was hands-on. So we were trained in the hospital. I was trained at Spanish Town Hospital in St. Andrews. So you go in and you get trained for 2 years. You have hands-on experience, as I say. So you go through the whole system, antenatal, postnatal, intranatal, labor and delivery, and you get to see patients like that. We saw women in the field because that's what we do. You go out, you see women. We also work in the hospitals, but it's a little bit different. So midwifery in Jamaica for me was, I was a midwife in the field. So I did home deliveries. I worked in the health centers where we saw patients because I love the interaction, the continuous interaction, as opposed to hospital. They come to you and they go home and it basically stops there unless they have to come back again. And I preferred to have a continuous relationship with them. So I chose to be out in the field.
Okay.
Here for midwifery, what I've seen so far, the most experience and exposure I've had in the setting as a midwife here is clinical for this RN program. And you go in the hospital and basically the midwife does not do too much. They monitor you throughout labor. They monitor you throughout the postpartum period, the first day or two that you're in the hospital, and then you go home. The doctors do the deliveries here.
Okay.
I've never seen an instance where the midwife does the delivery. And I think the nurses that were on the labor and delivery unit that I went to clinical, they were RNs. They weren't nurse midwives.
Okay.
So there were RN labor and delivery nurses.
Okay.
A little bit different. We have a hands-on approach when it comes to delivery. You have a relationship with the mother. It's like a more open, intimate relationship with the woman.
That's good. Now, I know it's still your passion to do this. So how do you see it unfolding, building this interaction and, practice for women?
So it's going to be a little bit different than what it was like in Jamaica. And I say that because back home in Jamaica, the love and respect that a midwife gets, it's unmatched. Let me just put that out there. They really, really appreciate a midwife. And we are so close with them. It's an intimate relationship, right? Here, how I see it going back into that role for me, I want to start off by getting a job in a labor and delivery department. That way I can see how they run things. Personally, I don't like the care that most people get. And the statistics, it speaks volume because Black women they're like 2 to 3 times more maternal death than any other race. Right. The disparity is a huge disparity. So me as one person, I can't change that, but I can make some sound. I feel like I could step in, I could educate, because education is a huge part of patient care. Like if they know something, if they're educated, their response to certain things will be different. The outcome is going to be different. So I want to step into it, into the whole aspect of maternity. What is it about, and then maybe add something that I've learned in Jamaica, take it with me, because there's a lot that I've learned there from older midwives and just my tenure there, right? So I feel like I will be able to come in, step in, and make a little bit of difference. I recently took a doula course, what it looks like and how you would interact with people in that setting here as opposed to back home. That's like a step down. You don't do anything medical, but you're supportive to the woman. So I did that course to see where that would take me.
As you mentioned, Black women typically go through a whole lot. I mean, can I even begin listing them? It's a whole lot. And especially in this area, it's even more dangerous for us, right? Because, we're not taken care of as white, women going into the same type of care. So, as you're doing this work, how do we get the word out? As in letting people know that there's a resource, some information, and some, support, which we all need, right? I mean, unfortunately, I'm all done long time ago. I'm all done long time ago, and my daughter was not born in this country, so I didn't go through the same experience that a lot of Black women go through here. And especially now, you think of healthcare as being advanced and we have the technology, etc., but we still have these challenges to go through. So thank you for doing this. And, if there's a way we can get the word out to folks, because you have a healthcare practice now?
I do. I own Stat Pro Healthcare Solutions. Initially, we started with CPR training, and that's based on my background too in Jamaica. I feel like again, Black people have a higher risk of cardiovascular diseases, and of course, the education does not get to us too much. Care does not get to us too much. One, because of disparities. Two, we don't have access to healthcare as much, or the education and or diet culturally. It's a whole lot of things that sets us up to be prone to these diseases that will lead to cardiovascular accidents. So I feel like everybody should learn CPR. So I started that business. I hope to grow on it. Hence the name Stat Pro Healthcare Solutions.
Right.
I did not put it in a bubble like solely about CPR, because it really is not. So I plan to expand Stat Pro Healthcare Solutions throughout the pandemic. Throughout the pandemic, we got a contract, like we collaborated with the high school, the district, the public school district of Middletown, and we provided care. So we also provided testing and vaccinations to the public, the city of Middletown and the state entirely, because we drove around to people who are homebound patients and gave vaccines to those who wish to have had it. So it's a little bit more than CPR at this point, and it will be going forward.
That's nice. That's nice. I applaud your efforts. I'm so excited to see, young women really being entrepreneurs and, being really strong in your efforts in, getting the things that your heart desires in place, right? And it's wonderful to see that happening. Now, as an immigrant, and I am too, we all have our coming to America story. I can tell you plenty. So you want to share a success story?
Yes. So coming here in 2013, I really didn't really have a plan. I just needed to be away from where I was. And I feel like at that time, right now, looking back, it was the best move that I made. Growing up in Jamaica, we grew up poor. And I'm going to say that freely, without shame. I was born to a mother she had 5 kids. And she was a single mother. I was the fourth of 5. So can you imagine, right?
Right.
Her dream was to become a nurse, and mine was to be a midwife, because I loved the midwife that did the home visits in my area. Until she died when I was 16, and just before she died, she told me her goal, her dream was to become a nurse. She did not get that opportunity. So this journey that I'm on as a RN is one of the most significant, I think, of any thing that I will take on here. I'm living her part of the dream right now to become an RN. She wanted that. She gave me that opportunity. I went. She said the only gift she can give us, somebody can take away, is education, because we cannot afford anything else, right?
Right.
So we soaked everything up like a sponge, she says. And that led me to push harder, think of her, and I came here. So when I came here, it was rather hard, as most immigrants.
Right.
You go through so much. You go through so much. And one of mine is homelessness. And I met Sonia in 2014, and she said, "Girl, I'm gonna be your aunt." And that was a blessing, because she's the sweetest, you know what I mean? And I came here to family, and when I started nursing school, I was like kicked out and like really thrown out. So I came back from that. I completed school. This lady that is my aunt, like not family, but she's an aunt. I got to choose her. Wow. And Stephanie Patrick, God bless her. She took me in. I was in the middle of LPN school. I had 6 months left. And she took me in when I became homeless. I was homeless for a week. So completing that program, that LPN program, like it gave me 2 feet to stand on. So I'm grateful for that. That was my very first big accomplishment. And then I kept going to Sonia to get my hair done. She would do such a beautiful job.
Right.
I keep going back all the time. And we were talking as you do when you're in your hairdresser's chair.
Right.
We talked. So, and we spoke about home ownership. And that moment he says, I know someone. And she made one call, and that someone knew somebody else and knew somebody else. And I met with those people, fixed my credit, and I bought a house. And that happened in such a short period of time. Probably will never say never,
Right.
but I'm now a homeowner.
Oh,
And
congratulations.
thank you. It just keeps building. It just keeps, you know what I mean? Like, the goal is not to get here and stop.
Mhm.
When you make goals, you get there, and it's where do I go from here?
Well, we all came to this country with a dream, right? And everyone I know, and every immigrant I know, came also because when you're out there, they tell you things about this place that you never know about, right? And then you get here and you're like, oh my God, it's not that easy. And
It's not.
it's extremely difficult, to make something out of. But one of the things that I find really empowering is that people come here and they don't lose their dream. I know a lot of people who come as, you doing midwifery, some even in medical schools, or even have completed schools and could just get a job and live in a certain way in their respective countries. But then they get here and they have to start from scratch.
Start over.
And starting from scratch means being a doctor and even being a janitor, right?
Yes.
You have to start and making money. And you probably work 2-3 jobs, to get money in and then buy a home, etc. Right? And people wonder, how are immigrants doing this? The main thing that comes to mind is the passion for you to do something better than you had before, and also to really set a dream in place, right? This is supposed to be the place where dreams are made, and that is the beauty, the idea of America that I love, right? That irrespective of your standing, if you have a dream and a goal, yes, it's very difficult, but you can get there because there are opportunities built within the system. But one thing that you said that really touches me deeply is that Sonia reached out and helped you. She never told me that part of the story at all. She just said, talk to Princess. She has a story to share. And it is us reaching out to support one another that makes even the dream even more possible. Right? So as a young woman, really going, having experienced that, what do you share with people who, you encounter, you look up to you, or, you work with, younger women in your generation? What would you tell them? If one advice you wanted to share with them, what would you say?
You know what? Keep going. If you're in it, stay in it until you get what you want out of it. You can't just stop just because it feels like it's hard. The harder it gets, it means that you're almost there. Just keep going.
Right. That's nice. I like this, is the harder it gets, means you're close to really getting over that. All right. So we've mentioned some of the challenges that women face, Black women especially, face in this system. when you are also in a leadership position, as you have taken on, now you are running your own healthcare, solutions business, and I'm assuming you have employees, etc. Right? How do you manage that?
Kind of hard. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard because now the focus is on you. Everybody is expecting you to live a certain life, do certain things. You're going to lead by example. So when all eyes are on you, you are afraid to drop the ball. So you're like watching and calculating your every move. I have very few employees, and they're just God sent. It's such a great team, right? But it's not the easiest to manage. I have a hard time, like I have to work on it, delegating. So it gets difficult, but I try, and everybody works well together. We gel. Like it's a democratic system that we work under. We bounce information off each other. Everybody have a say, you know what I mean? And we work along with each other to make sure everyone is happy. So, everybody's like
That's very nice. Yeah, working with people, can be difficult, as you say, but if you have a system where there's a shared respect, respect going down and up, it balances things quite well. And, you learn as you go, right? You learn as you go. I was I worked at a community college in Middletown. And you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to mention names because I don't want to put people on the spot here. But I had a department that I was running, and I had all my staff were white. And yeah, it was challenging, I have to say. Not that, yeah, certain things could have been different. I don't want to revisit that issue, but there are certain people that come on board that really make the work enjoyable. So when the going really gets tough, which we all know in our experience, it can get tough. What do you lean on?
The teachings of my mother.
Okay.
The teachings of my mother. That's what brings me through. My mother was a praying woman. And like I tell you, she's a mother of 5, and she was a single mother. And growing up, nothing that your mother says, your parents says, it just sounds like they want to control you. But hers now, when I look back, I've lost her so young. But when I look back, everything that she's taught me, I could lean on it. I could use that as a guide to get through. It's as if she's still right here. So all the teachings that she has given to me, like I lean to that for comfort and guidance. The simplest thing as when you go outside, look up.
Right.
That's where you find your first true beauty of the day.
You know what I mean? Go outside, look up.
Look up. So
very powerful.
If anyone knows me, I'm always taking a picture of the skies. She used to lay on the ground with us and look up at the clouds, and we discuss what shapes they were. We'll each see something different, but it was something that she would do. So it's the little things that helps me get by when it gets hard. She was a praying woman. I will open my Bible. We prayed at 12, we prayed at 6 in the morning, 12 in the afternoon, and 6 in the evening. And anywhere I'm at and I look up and I see 12 p.m., I'm gonna close my eyes and whisper a little prayer. You know what I mean? Those are the
I know what you mean.
I lean on those to bring me through.
Well, and I'm very glad you're mentioning this, right? Because people think when we talk about spiritual practice and stuff that you have to like lock a block of time and everything, but it can be just a moment's thing to just, as you said, close your eyes and say a quick prayer. and acknowledge the presence of the divine and, keep going, right? But you pause for a moment. I mean, when I think of how many minutes or hours we spend watching TV, for example, we should be able to find a few minutes every day within that to, communicate with a higher power, right? And so I'm glad that brings you some peace. Once again, I want to ask you about young girls, because as we are growing and as we are learning from each other and giving to each other, if you were to go to a high school or a middle school, right now, and you were to give some advice, what would you tell them?
That's an interesting question. So it is, because little girls know the things that they see and the people that they see as role models is not always what you want to have your child lean towards. You know what I mean? So the norm now is a little bit different. So middle school, I would probably tell them, enjoy being a little girl. The things of the world is going to be there when you get there. Enjoy being a child. It's important for them to understand their childhood, enjoy their childhood, and not race into womanhood. Experiences the changes. Your body is going to go through changes. Your world is going to change a little bit every day. You're not expected to act as if you were in kindergarten. You have to change as you go along. So you're going to enjoy each aspect of your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's hard for them because everyone's exposed to the internet now. We don't know what our kids see. So they act a little bit more grown than they actually are, to be honest with you. So I would encourage them, step back a little bit and be a child. You're gonna miss those days when you get older and have to pay some bills. I mean, you're gonna get
right. Well, I remember when I was in high school. I mean, that was a long time ago, but I remember coming home and I had everything, right? I didn't have to buy anything. I didn't have to work. I didn't have to do anything. And I was in a hurry to, leave home and be this grown-up person. And I remember the very first year I left home out of high school and, continuing my education in a different city. But I realized that I had to get my own food, get my own this, get my own that. I have to pay this
not
and
so
stuff.
much fun.
And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, God, I like to go back home, right? I wanted to, okay. So I noticed, I spent every once in a while, I just take my bags and go home. It was more comfortable there, but I didn't appreciate that as much as, I was so eager, to grow up and be my own person, right? But you don't know the challenges and the, curves out there that, comes up as you go down the road. And you have to learn it, but it's a little daunting, when you try to grow up too fast,
Yes.
Yeah, I remember I was going home quite often, more often than I thought I would.
Because the reality of it is, it's not what you think it's going to be.
Right.
It's definitely not going to be what your thoughts are. So this is the age when they start to pay attention to themselves a little bit more. They understand the changes that's happening, within and around them. So I would advise them not to get too caught up in the internet world. It's that 2 seconds of that perfect life that you see. It's only 2 seconds.
Right.
It does not depict the person's whole life story. Depression and suicide rate among that age group of kids in middle school. It's not nice to think about. Right. They get so depressed because of the standards that they think they have to live up to. They are exposed now to peer pressure and bullying. You know, it's more pronounced in that setting. So I would advise them, it's okay to be you know, focus on being a child, step away
And
from all of that.
the influence in this country also of the media, and what is being put out there, make people think that, being close to your family or the role models, let me rephrase this. The role models when I was growing up was our grandparents and our, aunties and or within the family, extended family unit, right? And then even if it went out a little bit, it could be a teacher or someone you had intimate relationship with that really was guiding you in some way to be better.
Right.
Here with all the flux of, money and, cosmetics and, cosmetic being the external things, we pay so much attention to it. And then you have the portrayal of actresses and actors and stuff as, role models, even though we don't know who they are really beyond what they do, right? It kind of distorts the view of what is real.
Right.
So I'm really focusing on what you're saying to young girls, that everything that they desire is ahead of them, right? And there's no need to really get in touch with, doing everything right now in order to really, how do you say it? Run down the road instead of just stepping into it appropriately.
Right.
Okay.
They're gonna get there. If they run, they're only gonna get there a little bit faster. Right. Which is not always nice.
Yeah, and fast doesn't mean success, right? We always told on this, the tetras and the what's this? Sorry, I'm trying to remember. And the hair, doing a race and running so fast ahead and only to stop for the turtle to do it slowly and just get to the finish line. So we need that strength to do that.
Right.
Tell me, you're a healthcare professional, and I know in the past 20 months, we've really seen some things happen in our world that we've never been exposed to before, right? Having a pandemic that affected the whole world. We've never, at least in my lifetime, I don't remember anything that's difficult. As you were going and providing the services, to individuals at home, what did you see?
A host of different things, a host of different reactions. Like for healthcare providers, it was extremely difficult because being out there in the hospitals and see how quick a patient will deteriorate when they come in COVID positive and have all these respiratory symptoms. It's so stressful, it's traumatizing, it's tiring. So burnout is easy, it's quick, and the level of fatigue is unspeakable. For the patients themselves, some people still don't believe that COVID was real. That's something we won't get into, because if you don't have the knowledge, the education on it, some people will always be in denial about certain things. Some people will just speak because somebody else says something. But it has changed everything and everyone. It has impacted everybody, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, socially. It has. Economically, it has changed everything for everybody. So the norm that we knew before, what was our norm, is now, I don't know what it is anymore. I don't know what normal is going to be like anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if COVID goes, like the impact that it's going to have on us. So for the last 20 months, it has been a tremendous amount of life-changing event from one extreme to the next that I feel like impacted every single body, everyone.
Everyone, I agree with you. Are you hopeful? You know, are
I
you
am.
hopeful?
I am. And we've seen some changes. Um, Even though I question the results that are being brought forward with the decreased level of positive cases, because everyone now got home tests. So it's integrity at this point. Are you going to report that you were tested positive? Are you going to stay home? You know what I mean? So those
Yeah,
are not reported, and they're not going to go elsewhere to get a confirmed test. You understand what I mean?
yeah,
So the numbers are going to look smaller. However, the debt pool is nothing like where it was before.
hmm,
So I'm hoping that if it continues on the trend that we have, at least even if people are positive, they're not as sick and become debilitated as they were getting 20 months ago when everything first started. So healthcare is ever evolving, and this is one good thing about technology that I really appreciate. Was at a click of a button that you could transmit information from
right,
one place to another, one professional, one specialist to another. So the rapid turnaround of tests and the constant testing and evaluating to see what this does, what doesn't work, and come up with a vaccine as fast as they do. People question the integrity of it, the efficacy of it, but and the speed at which it came about. The speed is not a factor for me because the internet is a powerful place.
right.
Wherever you are now, it's a click of a button. It's like you're sitting next to me in this room. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So I feel like there is hope because they can keep building on what they have learned about COVID, because when it started, nobody really knew anything. It was a touch and go situation. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Let's try this. Let's try that. Okay, this works. Kind of sort of thing. So I'm hopeful. I am that it will we will see better days. I used to see over 100 persons per day when I did testing and vaccines at the high school, and it decreased tremendously, and I'm happy about that, you know, and
That's-
the outcome is better.
Do you see a lot of people? That's very powerful what you just said, and I want to build on that because we didn't know. I mean, I had Zoom back in the day, but I never quite used it until now that it's kind of um, I'm so grateful it's available, and there are so many other ways we can connect with a lot of people
Right.
because we've been forced to shift, from a norm to something new, right? And it's still
Right.
unfolding. So, maybe with time, I think hopefully by spring, things will open up some more. Hopefully,
Yep.
yeah,
Hopefully.
fingers crossed. Yeah,
Yes.
fingers crossed. Um, as an entrepreneur, you're a businesswoman, and you're trying to build something for yourself, leave a legacy. Uh, do you have children by any? I don't know.
Yes, I have a son. I have a 14-year-old boy.
Oh wow, okay. And so he's at that age where things are happening out there, and also using technology, faster than
Oh
we know.
yes. He teaches me everything because I'm not that computer literate at all. So I call him for everything and he's on top of that.
All
Yes.
right. So as a mother, and I always say this, you speak very highly of your mother and what she taught you and left you with, that you live by today. I have the same things. My mother was very, very strict woman back in the old days, and
Yep.
we had to do things a certain way, but it guides me. She gave me the discipline to be able to really hold my own and to shape my world in such a way. And I think if you're disciplined, you can get through a lot more, right? Easily. What do you tell your son?
A number of things. So as a single mother, it's hard to raise a boy, and you will hear things like a single mother cannot raise a man. I do not know what their parents raised, but I will raise a man. I have no desire to be his father, but I'll play a role as good as any. So I will teach him things. Most often I will teach him about having a good personality, being a good person, because it's very important to be a good person. It will take you as far as you want to go if you have that mindset and that personality. And my mother often tells me, if you can't do good, don't do anything at all. And I tell him that. Right. Be a leader. Everybody will not be a leader. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to be a follower, be the best follower and choose your leader, so you are not led astray. And I tell him that all the time. He has a strong personality. He's a very good child. I have not gotten, thank God, I need a piece of wood to knock on.
I'll knock for you. I'll knock for you.
Thank you. I have not gotten one bad report. Every teacher says he's so respectful. He's such a good child. He's so helpful. I always tell him, let your behavior and your words go before you. That when people see you, they said, okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? You do not always get a second chance. Be a good person always. Because in this day and age, what we have going around, the leadership that we see spread across social media, the good things does not always make it out there. Mm-hmm. It doesn't. It's always the wild stuff. And I say wild and it's mild compared to the things that are tossed around out there for young men. You know what I mean? So that's one of my main lessons to him. You have to be a good person. And of course, the only gift I can give you, like my mother gave me, is education. You have one job, go to school and soak it up.
Right. I don't understand the excuse why people, well, there are a lot of challenges people face sometimes that make them drop out of school. But when we think of school in this country where it is absolutely free, I mean, you know, primary school, middle school, high school, everything is free. You know, college, you can go to college, and so it bugs my mind a little bit that, you know, people drop out of school. But as you're saying, you know, most of the time, we raise boys to not really see the responsibilities they have also in society. In other words, they have a freer reign than girls.
Yes.
But we have to also raise boys to respect girls.
Absolutely.
Right. And because otherwise, this cycle of violence against women, misogyny, all those things that are happening in our society that we don't like, will keep going on because we're not stopping it from the way we raise our boys. Right. Sure. So I'm very glad that you know, giving him the tools to recognize what is important and how to behave appropriately. You know, I think we talk about girls a lot. I do. But I also think that boys are important if we're going to form a partnership of a better world, you know, for our kids and grandchildren moving forward. So
I completely agree with you with that. I completely agree.
Yeah. So
it's hard when the blame game is usually on the women, on the girls. It's like a woman does not get a chance to try. A man, a boy can always, I'm trying, but a woman, a girl has to, I have to.
Right.
It's never gonna be fear, but responsibility and accountability is very important.
Very, very important.
Mhm.
And, I'm glad you bring this up because, girls, growing up as girls, we taught, these are things you cannot do. You have to do these things. I remember, you have to learn how to cook. You have to learn,
Right.
to be a good wife, you have to be this, that, there's so host of things, and I'm thinking, but why can't the boys do the same things?
Right.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be exactly the same things, but they should also have equal responsibility, so that we all, ease our way through life a bit.
And it would be so much easier. We have this complex where I don't know if it's a race or what, but it's one that I'll never join. Like, you can do things like anybody else. You know what I mean? And if some men nowadays, they have this complex where, okay, I want a woman that's gonna cook, wash, and clean, but you also want that woman to go out and work.
Yes. So
And
you work, cook, clean, take care of the babies, and still get
go
yelled
to
at for
work
not doing it.
and
Yeah,
bring home
no,
a paycheck.
no.
You can't
Yeah,
have it both ways. It's either
no,
you
no.
want the olden days or you want a modern woman. What are we doing?
Yeah,
It
and
starts in childhood.
that never worked for me.
Right? If we go split, we go split. But it starts at childhood. This is the age when we have to teach them roles and responsibility and
Mhm.
accountability. I think it starts here.
Well, I grew up, I'm very fortunate. I grew up with very strong women, my mom and my aunties and my grandmother. My grandmother was very quiet and very calm, but I didn't see anybody come do any foolish thing in front of her. That was never happening, ever. I never saw that. So I'm very grateful that, they gave me the tools to say, you don't have to do these things to be a woman,
Right.
right? Yeah. So,
Did she have that look, that one look that will make
uh-huh,
you change your mind? Okay,
uh-huh.
so that's why.
Yeah. We know the look.
Absolutely. I
Yeah,
love
we
that
know the
tells
look.
you what time it is.
Yeah. They don't
I
have to
love
say anything.
at
You just
all.
get a look that, gives you, and I do that too, even now.
Yeah,
I learned from, some very wise women,
yeah.
you don't have to always use words. You don't have to.
True.
So we spent quite almost an hour together.
Oh, really? Time flies
Really?
when you're having fun. Look
Yes,
at us.
exactly. Good conversation here. I really appreciate this. I ask you, to close. I know you're a busy woman and you have to head out, and you give me time in the, to do this, and I appreciate
Right.
that. Who is a woman of power and grace to you?
I would say such woman would have the quality, or would have it in her to change and impact lives and people effortlessly. So this would be something that's innate or something that she has acquired, the ability to impact others, like to keep them on a path or just to change their mindset. And she does this effortlessly and have people complete life-changing task, something
Mhm.
that's gonna impact them. And she does that with grace and poise. That's a woman of power for me.
That's wonderful. I am so happy to, meet you. And I'm looking forward, moving forward. Like we are going to get more time, spend more time
Absolutely.
together and see
Absolutely.
how we impact, others. You're already doing it. So I'm very, very proud of you. And
Thank
as we close, I want to once again thank all our listeners. And I'm very, very, very grateful for your presence. Thank you.
you.
See
Thanks
you
for
in a
having
couple of
me.
weeks.
All right. See you there.